Welcome to the Rangers Respite. I'm Philip, and today we're talking about a release from one of the distilleries in the ultimate bout of the second round of the 2024 Virginia Whiskey Tournament. Now, before we get to the J.H. Bard Spirit Company Rye Whiskey, let's talk about the last two bouts. You see, we had a tie, and we had tiebreakers, and it's afternoon on Wednesday, which means I am actually about an hour delinquent in at time of recording in delivering upon my audience the winners of those tiebreakers. On in our bout between Hilltop Distillery and Blue Shepherd Spirits, Blue Shepherd has taken it by a country mile, gaining every single vote that was cast. Now, the other bout, the bout that was a face-off between two of the big dogs in Virginia Distillery Company and Ragged Branch Distillery, it was a considerably tighter race, but with approximately 75% of the vote, Virginia Distillery Company is walking away with the win and the seat in round 3. Now, with luck, there will be no more tiebreakers, and we can move on to round 3, where we will whittle down the entrance even further. But without further ado, an ad. If you like what I do, if you like the Virginia Whiskey Tournament and the Single Malt Frontier Show, please consider buying a bowl from me. I hand make them all with my lathe. Almost all of them, all the bowls that I make are native hardwoods. I also sell pens turned from various hardwoods, but highlighted at the top are my bourbon barrel pens. With all of that out of the way, I suppose I ought to finally talk about this. Now, J.H. Bards is a relatively young distillery founded in 2020. And it shows a little bit in their spirit. It is a fact of life that for the first few years, distilleries are going to be putting out very young whiskey. And this is no exception. It's got a little bit of that wet cardboard tales note that will go away over time, both because they will lose the need to cut quite so deeply into their tails, and they will also have a broader pool of barrels to select from and blend from to create a profile that lacks that funkiness, unless they would like to keep it, which to each their own. It does have some nice rye bready spice, a little bit of like more pronounced caraway seed note, a little bit of like bright shininess and sweetness on the notes that you don't typically expect from a rye whiskey. Definitely a little bit of oak notes. Not a ton of oak influence, but it is there. It is a little bit spiky on the nose. It is 45% alcohol by volume. Not too bad. Again, you can tell that it's young spirit on the palate. Initially, it's very sort of spiky aggressive on the alcohol note, despite being only 45%. So, the palate is sort of a layered. You've got those bright top notes, grain shininess. I'm not sure what their mash bill is. I'll have to double check their website. But there's some grain shininess that I don't typically associate with rye notes in there. Sit up right near the top with that ethanol-y, sharp and slight tails funk. And then down below, you've got a nice, rich, warm section of soft rye bread notes. That nice, sort of buttery, soft spice, caraway seed, a little bit of like star anise and cardamom. And then sort of, there's this tight core, buried deep under all of that is a sort of like a faint, like hazelnut chocolate, like Nutella-ish note that's kind of interesting. It is a little bit dry, flavor-wise. It is a little bit drying in the mouth. Again, those are things that, as they are able to pull older barrels, broaden their pool for blending, those deep, rich notes will increase. That top notes of like shiny young grain and tail funk will go away. But this is already a very good whiskey. It's not challenging, and I enjoy challenging. I enjoy high proof. I enjoy big, brash, bold flavors that sort of grab you and make you listen. But this is a very drinkable, very enjoyable dram. The finish, finish mid-length. It doesn't hang around for too long. It's got a little bit of that wet cardboard note, but that's where the oak really sort of pops. You get that, sort of bright, sawdusty, like almost mineralic note, accompanied by a little bit of like vanilla, cinnamon, and the typical barrel notes. Or maybe just a little bit of like like, you ever accidentally burnt a grilled cheese and you scrape off that blackened bit of bread? That there's a note of that in there as well. Overall, fairly well executed. I look forward to seeing more of what these folks do. I figure this is 2023 batch, so I'm due for an update. I may have to get myself another bottle. Compare them, contrast, see how it stacks up. It certainly shows a lot of promise. Ooh, lots of an interesting vegetal note on that pass. Interesting. Now, as you may know, I don't give numerical scores. I ask and answer 3 questions because I find that gives you, the viewer, a lot more information. The first question, the figure goes down. First question, do I like it? Yeah, actually, I really do. For all of my like pointing out the little flaws, the little bit of the wet cardboard note, the being very young, it is a very well put together, well blended whiskey. Again, it is, every distillery has been where they are now at some point in time, and some distilleries are yet to be there, where they're not quite at the point where they're blending deep because they don't have very deep stocks to blend from. And so the youth of the spirit shows through. That's okay. Second question, do I think it's a good value? Yes. Absolutely. Not just because I think that supporting a craft distillery is important at any cost, but I genuinely think this is good whiskey. They're making good whiskey, and it is worth the price tag. And the third and final question, do I recommend it? Yeah, Actually, I do. Um, it has some notes in common with the very prevalent 95.5 MGP rye, but it is altogether different. It has some unique character to it, and I think that it is an excellent choice if you're looking for a small homegrown rye. I think that they are making good stuff, and I think that they have a bright future ahead of them. I haven't tried their bourbon. I like their single malt, though I find it to be a hair on the young end, and I like their rye, obviously, as I have just stated. If you see it on shelves, I recommend trying it. Also, I've failed to follow up with them, but I've spoken to one of the founders at a spirits event, and they are extremely nice folks. And I am trying to convince my co-host Doug on the Single Malt Frontier to let me, pitch some for a maybe a whole Virginia Single Malt round table. But until I manage that, I'm stuck talking them up on my own. Now, if you want to vote for them or their opponent in this round, Catoctin Creek, or if you want to vote in the other round, which is, or other bout, which is Brady's versus Falls Church Distillers, links, as always, are in the description down below, as well as links to my Etsy shop, and a link to the JH Bards website. Remember, support craft distilling. And until next time, it's been good talking to you. Stay happy, stay geeks, sláinte.